Next, we'll use tokens, which serve as variables in CDD, to parameterize some of the fields in a task. So if we navigate to the Tokens tab, we can see that we can add a new token. There's also quick reference information about the different types of release tokens that we can use in CDD. And there's a list of built-in tokens that are generated by CDD. In this example, we're going to create a local release token, and we're also going to use existing built-in tokens. To demonstrate this, we'll use a Slack task from the CI rollback on failure phase and use tokens to update the message that's sent out by Slack and customize that message each time it's sent. So if we open the task Send Message Web Backend Failed, and we scroll down to the message, we can see that the message is currently hard-coded to say, the most recent web backend build failed, redeploying the previous successful build to this environment. Now what we're going to do is change this message, and we're going to use tokens to communicate exactly which build failed, which build will be redeployed, and to which environment it will be redeployed. So if we cancel out of the task for a moment and look at the built-in tokens, to make this message dynamic, we'll use the Web Backend Last Successful Change token to communicate the build that failed. We'll use the Web Backend Previous Successful Change token to communicate which build will be redeployed, and the CDD Phase Environment token to communicate which environment the build will be deployed to. With that, we can go back to editing the task, and in the message field, we'll delete the current message and replace it with a new message that contains the tokens. For the first part of the message, we'll communicate the build number that failed, and by typing the % where we want the build number in the message, we get the list of existing tokens to choose from. We'll select Web Backend Last Successful Change because in the On Failure phase, this token has the value of the recently failed build. Then in the next sentence, where we communicate the build that will be redeployed, we'll do the same thing, but here we'll select the Web Backend Previous Successful Change token, because in the On Failure phase, the value of this token is the number of the build that last passed through the phase successfully and will be redeployed through the rollback process. And then we'll use the CDD Phase Environment token to communicate which environment the build will be redeployed to. So with these changes made, as builds cycle through the CI phase, the Slack message going out will be able to communicate a specific build number that failed, the specific build number that will be redeployed, and the name of the environment the build will be deployed to. For example, if build 3 passed and build number 4 failed, the message would read, Web Backend build 4 failed, redeploying Web Backend build 3 to the CI environment. So this is a simple example of how to use the built-in tokens, and now let's look at adding a custom token. We'll continue to use the Slack message as our example, and what we want to do now is create the ability to easily change the sender of the message. If we look in the sender field, we see the hard-coded value of CD director. And what we can do here is create a custom token and assign the value of CD director to this token. Then in the future, if we want to change the messages to come from a different sender, all we have to do is change the value of the token once, and then any task that's using this token in the release will send messages from the new sender that's defined in the token. So we'll go ahead and save the changes we made to the message. Then we'll navigate to the Tokens tab, and to create our custom token, we'll click Add Token and select Add Local Token. A blank field displays where we can type in the name of the token, and we're going to call this token Slack Sender. Then click Create New Local Token. And now we can see the token is created, and in the Scope field, Phase is selected by default. We're going to go ahead and change this to Release, because we want this token updated and propagated at the release level. If we left it at the phase level, the value of the token is reevaluated when each phase is started. For example, the Web Backend Last Successful Change token is always updated at the beginning of each new phase execution. And we can also see that there's a field below the token name, and here we can enter the name of the sender, CD director. And then simply clicking away from the field enters the value. And now let's return to our task. And in the sender field, we'll replace the hard-coded value by typing the %, And if we start to type the name of the token, the drop-down list is filtered, and we can select the Slack sender token. And we're ready to click Save. And now all our messages will still go out with CD Director as the sender, but if we wanted to change that to say Release Manager in the future, all we need to do is update the value of the token, and the next time a message is sent, it will come from the Release Manager account. So as you build out releases, think about how you can use tokens to avoid having to update hard-coded values in the tasks. The use of tokens helps you create a release that's much more flexible and easier to maintain. And along those lines, try to add the tokens early on before you start duplicating phases and tasks to minimize the amount of manual labor that's required to replace hard-coded values with tokens. That's especially true in tasks that are repeated throughout a release.